Hi there, Perimenopause. Today I'm going to Guildford, Surrey in England to speak to Amy Fleming. She is way too young to be going through this, but she is because take two. Hi, Perimenopause. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to Guildford, Surrey in England to speak to Amy Fleming. She is way too young to be going through this, but she is. Like so many women her age, because menopause hit at 27 after she developed premature ovarian insufficiency. Amy has picked up a megaphone to get us all to notice this ever since this happened to her in 2020. And she wants us to know that it's not just Gen X experiencing perimenopause and menopause. She's speaking to media. She's telling her story on the Instagram account Girl Power. That's POI Power. And she's talking to us about what this is all like. Hi, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Anne-Marie. How are you doing?
I'm doing really, really well. Okay, I want to avoid something off the top, so I'm going to ask you, what
Sure.
is like the dumbest thing people say to you, or the dumbest question people ask you, or the most irritating, like, ugh, thing people say to you about what you're going through?
Oh, well, instantly think of when they say, "Oh yeah, but you're too young to be menopausal," and it's just like, yeah, but actually no. So that's really frustrating.
But I'm
So
telling you I am. I'm telling you I am, so I'm not.
absolutely, I think that is the most frustrating thing. They're like, "You're too young to be going through menopause." That
Yeah.
is like the top rank. There's others like that. It's like, oh well, just try and see if you can get pregnant, and then that might like fix you. And I'm like, no. So it's just dumb things, aren't they? Dumb things.
Well, I'm always amazed at how people will tell you something about what you're going through when they know absolutely nothing about it. Like that's just a human thing that I can never get over.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's such a good point. I've never realised that until now. Yeah, we love it, don't we? I think I'm guilty, and I'm like, I know I'm not a doctor, but have you considered this?
Oh yeah, like I even noticed like and everyone does it, even my smartest friends. I have a friend who is so smart and I had this gut problem last year and I couldn't eat garlic or onions. And she was arguing with me saying, "But they're so good for." I'm like, "Yes, but in this specific instance that you don't know about. I know it's weird." It's just such a human nature to be like, "I don't understand this. This does not compute." And what you're going through really is like that because I think, anyone my age, I haven't had kids, but anyone my age just has my heart goes out to you for what you've gone through because I just sort of wonder what it's like in your friend group and how your friends have been. And, because everyone's getting their period every month and talking about everything. And I don't know where you're at with that, but what's it like with your friend group?
So I'm really, really blessed to have a great friendship group. Like they have been stunning to me, like amazing. And actually, very recently, one of my closest and oldest friends has announced that she's pregnant. And for me, I had to be like, oh my word, that's so amazing. But then I had to give myself that time to be like, actually, Amy, if you feel a little like sensitive about that and a bit triggered, then allow yourself to have some time. And I did, but luckily for me at the moment, it's been pure joy for her. But so, which is really good. I mean, it's the first of, I'm sure, more that will come in that stage of life. Like I'm still in my 20s, just about clinging on. And I think, I think more people will transition into that sort of stage of life. But for now, they've been very supportive. I think, especially, I've had to change my lifestyle. Like I can't drink as much alcohol as I wanted to. Like so, bottomless brunches. I'm like, okay, I do want to still go hard, but I know that I'm going to pay for this like tomorrow in the hangover. But they have been great. They've been wanting to learn more about the menopause, and premature ovarian insufficiency. And I've said to them, when they eventually reach that stage of their life, whatever age it is, they are going to be so well equipped, because I just bang on about it the whole time. They have not got off lightly, because otherwise it's such a lonely experience. I think that's the main thing. I think if I didn't speak up and I didn't share with my friends, because there's times you do want to isolate, I think it would be such a lonely experience. So yeah, they've been great.
Yeah. Women my age say it's a lonely experience. So,
Yeah.
of course. Okay, so you're a couple of years out from when this all happened, but can you just walk us through what happened to you, how you found out, how things transpired?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose it was at the age of 27 that I found out that um, I was going through premature menopause, well, a week before my 28th birthday. And how I got to that place was, back in 2019, I suffered a bout of really severe abdominal pain. I went to hospital, went to the NHS, and they essentially turned me away, discharged me, and said it's the norovirus. And even though I didn't have all the symptoms, they were like, it's the norovirus, which is a nasty bug thing, virus. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have it, but discharged. Then from that time till July 2020, so in like lockdown COVID times, I suffered that same pain 4 times. And I'm talking really struggled, like couldn't sleep, couldn't like sit up, couldn't do anything. It was felt like something was taunting in my body. It wasn't great, but eventually it would subside. And every time I would speak to the GP, the doctors over here, and would say, look, this is concerning, I don't know what's going on. And they said it's just IBS. So they just misdiagnosed me with IBS. And it was only until July 2020 that it was the worst pain ever. And I said, I've got to go. I called 111, and they advised, you've got to go to the hospital. And then that's when they did the first like gynae checks on me. And the reason why I suppose they were all concerned and about this time was I was actually starting to bleed. So that's a big red flag. They're like, something's not right. And when they did the examination through ultrasound and through CT scans, they found out I had a 18 centimeter cyst on my right ovary, which, for context, I mean, we know 18 centimeters is huge, but they say anything of the size of the ovary, which is roughly 4 centimeters or over, is deemed as an emergency. So July 2020, in the middle of lockdown, wasn't allowed any visitors. I was in hospital and about to have an emergency operation. I had to have a C-section just due to the size of the cyst, because they couldn't do it through keyhole. So I've got a hip-to-hip scar, which I always say it's like my pirate scar, but it's a little memento of that time. So I knew when I went into the operation that I was going to lose my right ovary along with the cyst. But it was only when they I was on the operating table, that when they opened me up, they found that my ovary and the cyst had twisted on itself 4 times. So every time I had that pain, previous, that I was calling up the doctors to say this and that, and they told me it's IBS. It actually was my ovary and the cyst twisting on itself, and obviously settling in such a way it wasn't so painful. So obviously that sort of solved that mystery, as sad as that was. But also, to add to the mix, they also, when they removed that cyst, they found another 8 centimeter cyst on my left ovary, which they didn't account for because it was covered up by the beast of the 18 centimeter one. And because of my age, being 27 at the time, I was literally 3 months later going to get married. The consultant tried her very best to save my left ovary. So they removed the cyst, and it was quite tricky. They described the cyst as being like ivy, or like English ivy on a building. So it was really stuck in. So she tried her best. And when I woke up, she described everything that happened. And she said to me, hopefully your ovary will recover and hopefully you'll be okay. Because my mum went through something similar. She experienced ovarian cysts. So she actually had her ovary taken out at the age of 26, before she had kids. So yeah, I was just like, could this be genetic? Who knows? And then also my grandmother also had a full hysterectomy because of cysts. So I didn't know any of this until I was in hospital. My mum obviously spoke to me and told me all this family history, which the doctors were so interested about. And I was like, I wish I knew this before, but that's a different story, I suppose. So after the operation, I instantly was suffering from menopausal symptoms. So I'm talking, for me, it was hot flushes, night sweats. My hair was thinning as well. And over time, between July to then February 2021, which is when I got my diagnosis, the symptoms got so bad that I found it so difficult to function in day-to-day life. Like, I was trying to get back into work. I was trying to, obviously, I got married, which was amazing. I was trying to settle into married life, and I was dealing with not just very physical symptoms of, as I said, hot flushes, hair loss, weight gain. I was also struggling with like the cognitive, like the mind blanks, the memory loss, the low modes, and the self-esteem was just shot. And I was like, what is going on? And I tracked these symptoms, and I wasn't given any information. And it was only until I had my appointment and I said, I'm suffering from all these symptoms. I had a blood test, 2 blood tests, and that was when I got my diagnosis that my ovary was failing because of the trauma of the surgery. And the menopausal symptoms was a key indicator that my body was not getting enough estrogen. The blood tests showed that my estrogen levels were really like rock bottom, that my FSH and LH, which were key to sort of seeing the ovaries function, were, really bad as well. So at that point, I was really sort of grateful that I'd almost got an answer. It was tragic because I got told you wouldn't be able to have your own kids and all of that, and which was a lot to process because I've just got married. You sort of presume that's going to happen and it's all exciting. But for me at that time, I was like, just want to get these physical symptoms sorted. I want to kick them in the butt because they are like dragged me down for such a long time. And luckily I got prescribed HRT, so hormone replacement therapy. I was put on estrogen patches and progesterone capsules because I still had my womb, so to induce sort of periods. And literally within 2 days I felt so much better. My insomnia started to lift, the hot flushes seemed to get better. And I was slowly, I think within 2-3 months, I was slowly starting to feel a lot more myself, which was great. And then after that, I started testosterone as a third part of my HRT regimen. And that again really helped with the memory issues that I was having, and just with general, I don't know, just general like self-esteem and muscle mass, and my fatigue as well was improving. So it seemed to be going really, really well. But sort of from then until now, I've just been, because my ovary is still having some function, it's sort of slowly declining. So my hormones have to be upped, like to sort of compensate for that. So yeah, that's, at the moment, that's what really that was how I got my diagnosis. I've just been trying to navigate it I'm now 29, trying to navigate it, trying to I had therapy at four months down the line to try and help me process such a huge amount of news, which I thoroughly recommend for anyone who, at any, whether it's premature menopause or normal menopause, because there's not enough information about it, and it's such a huge transition at any age. So yeah, I've just been trying to figure out what's going on with my body, and advocating for myself and sharing my story as well really helps with me processing the massive life change that I've had.
Okay, I just want to go to, it sounds like when you layered in testosterone, that really upped the way that you felt. Like, can you just talk about that a little bit? Like when you had the progesterone and the first of all, estrogen and progesterone, how you feel those impacted you, and then when you layered in the testosterone.
Yeah, so the estrogen really, well, estrogen and progesterone just really helped. Like the estrogen was the main thing that really helped getting that dose right. So I started off on a lower dose. I've now upped it, but for me, even I even feel like before I'm due to like change my patch and I can feel it starting to like run out, I'm like, this honestly, if you when I first saw a patch and how small it was, it's like, how is this meant to help my body? But it does. It's amazing. Like, what witchcraft is this? But you know, science is awesome. So I think for me, that really helped with those main symptoms that I was having, like night sweats and hot flushes and the hair loss, etc. And then in terms of progesterone, it's not my best friend, but the reason why I have to take it is to keep my womb healthy and make sure that the lining doesn't build up, because there's risks in that. There's definitely times where my progesterone has been too high because my estrogen has not been high enough, and the PMS symptoms have been quite like present. That's probably the best way. They really like to show you that they're there. But that's, I think for me, I always track how I feel, especially around this. I still have that cycle of having withdrawal bleeds. And then I suppose answering your last bit about testosterone, for me, it was just that extra like spice. Like it was, I think because testosterone, there's always that myth or that misbelief that it's just for men. And, you know, I think there's the fact that actually women produce more testosterone than guys. And when I learned that, when I went to the doctor being like, well, I'm really struggling with my memory loss, I'm really struggling with mind blanks, but also my low self-esteem and libido and fatigue. And I think testosterone would be the missing, you know, would really help. And then she went, yeah, I think that's fair enough. And obviously you have to have your like base levels checked, because you don't want to be on too high. Because I think when I first started, I was only meant to be on one pump, but I was accidentally, like through miscommunication, doing two. And I can't describe it to you. There was a bit of like my BO got, I basically turned more manly. My BO was like really smelly. I was
Sure.
getting really like angsty, but not like, it's gonna sound really weird, not like normal hormonal angsty, but just they're like, oh yeah, I really could punch someone in the face. That sort of angsty. And I was like, whoa. So then when I obviously monitored that and fed that back, and they were like, actually, I think you're too high on a dose. And when I dropped that down, I mellowed out a lot more. And I think the big thing for me was energy. That was the big symptom, that I was realizing that I had more energy in my day to do, you know, my job in the daytime, but also then like have a social life afterwards and not be knackered. So yeah, testosterone for me does really work. So
Amazing. And what when you went to therapy, what kind of things did you work on? Like, was it like processing sort of loss, healing? Like, how do you begin to tackle something like this emotionally?
gosh, yeah, definitely. I think we spoke a lot about what, I think for me, I was never really like a woman that wanted kids, like just never really was like, yeah, like wanted kids. I just knew that I would potentially want them further down the line. I was pursuing my career. I was like, this is what I'm doing. But when it's almost quite human instinct, when we can't have something, we want it more. And I think in therapy we spoke about that and addressing those patterns, and a lot of, we spoke a lot about controlling what you can control. So acknowledging those feelings, I think a big part of therapy, I realized that I am definitely like, I bury my emotions, and in this, with this diagnosis, you can't do that because you just implode. So for me, it was very helpful to learn techniques on, I suppose, reducing the temptation of burying. And for me, journaling is a massive thing, because if I can write it down on paper, and get it out, then that's really, really helpful. So yeah, that was one part, but then also just sort of talking through, because I'm an external processor, talking through what I believed a woman would be like. And I basically, it came out that I believed, to be a woman, woman equals mother, and not having that ability, in inverted commas, you are less of a woman. And obviously that's not true at all. And obviously fertility was a huge part, but it was also the long term, another part was the long term effects of having, I like to describe it like an estrogen deficiency, and the stresses that come with that. Medical professionals not always knowing what's going on, and having that preconception that it's when you're in your 50s that's when you get the menopause. So fighting for medical care, the stresses that come with that, um, and acknowledging that again, that it's rubbish, but also how can you best navigate through that. So it was talking, but also because the therapist that I had was also someone who had POI, so who had premature ovarian insufficiency, there were times that she let me listen, and then there was times where she's like, hey, like, I've done this might help you. Like, I was getting really, like, for example, something really simple is I was taking multivitamins, and I was getting them all like jumbled up and couldn't remember. And she said, look, why don't you just buy yourself like a pill organizer, because it would just help you. And every Sunday evening you just sit down in front of the TV, put like a program on, and just pop your pills in, and then you're done, and it takes the stress out. And it was so simple, but I do it every Sunday evening. I put some trash on the TV, and it's just really helpful. So,
Oh,
so
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it
Are there
just
any long-term risks, or are there any long-term risks from POI that you know about that you can talk about?
yeah, absolutely. So with POI, if you're not on the right level of estrogen, if your body doesn't have the right level of estrogen, then you're at a higher risk of getting osteoporosis. If that's how you say it, with your bone density. So yeah, and that's a big thing, because you don't want brittle bones, especially when you get older as well. But also you're at higher risk of diabetes, and having sort of cardiovascular problems, heart problems, and also want to keep at bay, sort of memory issues like dementia, Alzheimer's as well. So they are the main big ones. I suppose, like through going through menopause, it is harder to lose weight as well. So a big thing for me, because weight gain has been one of those symptoms, and I know when you are overweight as well, that can induce issues. So it's like changing your lifestyle and making sure that your HRT is like helping you in the best way. Reducing stress as well is a massive thing. So
Are there any other lifestyle things that you've done that have really helped you?
yeah, no, it's a really good question. I think as mentioned before, like reducing alcohol is a huge thing. So like switching to non-alcohol beer. Like I love beer. Um, and
Oh, I love it. I have to. Oh, I love it so much, but I can't really drink much.
no, exactly. And I've just been enjoying the low alcohol or non-alcohol options, because I think if you can trick your brain to be like, yeah, see, it tastes the same, but without the alcohol, then it's such a benefit. So I think that's, reducing alcohol, because that's for me, a huge trigger of hot flushes. And also oh my word, my sleep gets so bad. I don't know if that happens with you as well.
It does for days. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, hangovers.
Oh, well, hangovers are deadly, like just deadly now. And I'm non-functional, but it's when I say, "Oh, I'll just have a gin and tonic tonight." Like I'll have a beer tonight. It'll be fine. And unless I have it at like 5 o'clock and I have a whole bunch of hours, it's not fine. It's never fine. Always a terrible idea, and it's so unfair because it used to help me sleep, right? Like it used to make me relaxed, and yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really frustrating. And I think for me as well, the caffeine intake. I can't
Mm.
have caffeine after a certain time in the afternoon, because before I used to be able to drink it right up to before I would go to sleep. And I'd just be like, yeah, I'd have a cup of tea, like typical Brit. I'd have a cup of tea to go to sleep. But now I'm like, no, it has to be decaf because it just plays havoc. But no, a massive thing is exercise, making sure like moving my body. I think that doesn't just help physically, but mentally as well is a massive thing. I like took up running for the first time ever. I mean, I have stopped it because my joints were starting to hurt, but just from like a mental point of view, running was amazing because we have this app. Well, I don't know if you've heard of Couch to 5K. It's an app that's launched over here in the UK where you basically do for 9 weeks 3 runs a week and you build up to 5K. And you start off by like running for 30 seconds or like a minute, and then eventually by the end of the 9 weeks you can run for 30 minutes. And I remember starting it thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this, my body is like so, I felt like an old granny. And then getting to the end of 9 weeks and being able to run for 30 minutes, it was such a boost because I was like, my body is capable, and training it and really listening to it is key. But just other things as well, like I've changed my clothing. I've changed like what I like to changing it to more cotton based things, changing what I sleep in at nighttime. I used to have like the thickest, woolliest. I used to be one of these people that would go to bed with socks on. No chance. Literally, I'm like, I will sleep nude if I have to because I just get so hot. And just trying all the different hacks as well. Like I've got we've had a heat wave in the UK, and my husband doesn't like sleeping with the fan on, so I've had to try and think of different ways. And I bought a cool mat that was meant to be for a dog, and I put it in the fridge and I lay on top of it, and it works a treat. So you got to get creative with these things. So
Speaking of your husband, like how has this impacted your marriage? How has it been to deal with?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think again, I mean, shout out to him. He's been fantastic, and I think again, I've not held back with communicating to him how difficult this is, not just mentally but physically. And I think for him, he's quite good actually. So at times where he'll be like, "Oh, you look quite hot," and I'm like, "Oh, is it not hot in here?" And he said, "No, it's no." And I go, "Oh, right, I must be having a hot flush or something." So he's quite a good temperature gauge, and and stuff like that. But I suppose in terms of like a deeper level, I think when I found out, I had premature menopause, it was like we were in lockdown. So for us, we had some real quality time to talk through our options, and also just spend time together. We didn't have the stresses of like going out and seeing family and that sort of thing, which I think gave us a really good foundation. And it's only really been sort of this year now, coming out of post COVID, and still navigating my health, still getting the right sort of healthcare for me. I think I'm always grateful that we had that time to communicate, and we're still going to be communicating through it. I think, in terms of the conversation about kids, etc., we know we've got options with adoption and donor egg IVF as well, which I think we are both reassured that if we do want to extend our family, that we can do. But we equally, like, I think we're both grateful that we weren't at that stage. A lot of women do find out that they've got POI when they're trying to conceive. So I'm glad that we weren't in that position, and we've got time to process it and process our own grief, as you said, losing for me, losing DNA, and being able to work our like future with sort of maybe adoption in mind or something like that, if we want to. So it's been overall bumpy, but I feel very, very blessed that actually it's gone well. And I feel supported, so that's good.
Sounds like he picked a good guy. That sounds like he picked a good girl, but it sounds to me like,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there was a time when I found out, and I did say, I was like, it's, you do that thing where you're like, it's okay if you like want to go off with anyone else, and he's like, no, you idiot, no. Not at all, like not at all. And I remember even before going down for my operation, this is a little side note, but going down for my operation and obviously telling him what was going to happen, and he's just said like, look, whatever the outcome of this is, I will still want to marry you and I still want to be with you. And at the time, I didn't even think what it was. But, later on, he goes, I knew there was a chance that you could have potentially lost your fertility. So I wanted to say to you like that. So I do look back and I'm like, oh, that was really lovely. But at the time, I was probably so high on drugs. I was like, cool, thanks.
I just got a little shiver. That's really, really sweet. That's
Oh.
all somebody wants, right, from their partner. I'm wondering, just in terms of, you being a voice, and there are more voices like you, but not very many. So when you're sort of in this conversation with all of us who are older, and there's a lot of complaining, there's a lot of yelling, and I wonder what you think about it and how you feel like you're fitting in.
Yeah, no, so I think I feel so welcomed. I don't see the age barrier really, because it's just like we're going through the same rocky hormone show. Like we're going through that same show, and I think I feel, yeah, as I said, feel so welcomed, and I think I take a lot of wisdom from everyone that like maybe a bit older, but it's the community that I've joined, sort of through social media, through Instagram, has just been so valuable to me. And also getting pointed to the Daisy Network as the only sort of charity that is supporting women that are going through premature menopause, premature ovarian insufficiency. Because yeah, even though there's a bit of an age difference, there are times where you think, I am too young, and how do you connecting with other women your age as well is also a real big benefit. But I think it's great that there's lots of women sharing their stories, but there are still a lot of women that I get messages from that are like, I've never met anyone my age, like basically the same age, that is going through the same thing. And that just fills my heart with, it's so sad, but it's also so reassuring that sharing my story is doing good. Because I think I always say to myself, if you can put purpose to the pain, then I believe everything happens for a reason, like without getting too cheesy, but everything happens for a reason. If you can put purpose to the pain, then that's good. And I think, through what I share and how I share it on my platform with humor, I think humor is the best medicine. It translates all across the world. It doesn't matter if you speak English or a different language. Like humor, you just get it. So if you can make light of the situation, if you can make light of a very rubbish situation, then definitely, like, I love a good meme.
There are some really fun ones. Yeah. Okay. Any just last advice for someone who's going through this?
I think definitely finding your support network. I suppose again that was something that in therapy we covered, was what's your support network. I know for me, I've got a very supportive husband, but I know I'm friends and the community, etc., and family. But it's finding that support network. And if you haven't got one, then I'm here. I'll be part of that. I'll be the part of that support network, no problem. And also the Daisy Network as well. As I said, they're the only charity that help women with premature ovarian insufficiency. Um, I would say as well, there's nothing wrong with becoming more self-aware with what's going on in your body. Like whether you're going through this or not, whether you're listening and you're not going through to this podcast and you're not going through premature menopause, I think it's so important it's okay to become more self-aware, and being able to know what's going on with your body, make lifestyle choices to account for account for what's going on. Like if you've got stress in your life, like it's okay to take that stress away. Like when I found out my diagnosis later along the line, I basically quit my job and had a month off because the stress of my job was making my symptoms so bad. Coupled that with also upping my estrogen as well. So that was good. But yeah, all I would say is, track your symptoms as well. That's a huge thing. And advocate. Let your doctors know how much the symptoms or how much this is affecting you. And don't take no for an answer as well. Like, always look for a second opinion. Because not many doctors know about premature menopause, or don't expect it anyway. So be bold, be fearless, and you'll get it. You'll get the right care, hopefully.
Amazing. I mean, they don't know about regular menopause, so I don't know how they could know
Yeah.
about like your yeah, that's his particular challenge. Well, listen, thank you, Amy, so much. I really appreciate you talking about this. And a girl wrote to me on TikTok a couple of months ago and said, she said exactly what you get. I'm here and I'm alone and I don't know anyone. And I like broke my heart because I was just thinking about, and so I saved her comment and I was like, I've got to find someone to interview. And then you wrote to me and I was like, this is the person. This is amazing.
Oh,
Did I
amazing.
write to you? I can't remember. I probably wrote to you. I can't remember how it came
No,
out.
you reached out to me, and I'm just thank you so much for asking me to join on your podcast, because it's
I
just
was looking.
you.
I was looking and I found you. Anyway, thank you very much. And I'll put all your information about how people can connect with you.
Oh, it's brilliant. Thank you so much, Anne Marie. It's been great chatting to you.
You too.
Right.
Okay. Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
I'm always so awkward.